Well, the Homeland Security Department is officially rolling out its latest attempt at securing the U.S.-Mexican border. It's approved funding for a 28-mile virtual fence that will use radars and surveillance cameras. But will the high-tech savvy be enough to stop the flow of illegals into the U.S.? Joining us now to answer that, we have former Arizona Representative J.D. Hayworth on the phone, I believe, and here in studio, Immigration Law Group's Glenn Wasserstein. Thank you both for being here. J.D., can you hear me?
Brett, I can. I trust you can hear me as well.
I can. Let me ask you about this virtual fence. Something tells me you don't like it.
Well, Brett, unfortunately, the virtual fence is part of virtual progress that has been virtually non-existent. It's very straightforward. We need to have enforcement first. I physically stood behind President Bush in October of 2006 when he signed the Secure Fence Act, and then subsequently both the administration and, sadly, some in Congress worked to water that down. That forced Duncan Hunter to reintroduce the Enforce the Secure Fence Act, and it just defies imagination and common sense. Why don't we move to secure the borders? And don't get me wrong, as early as 2003, I was on record for radar and a form of virtual fence, but I guess the bottom line is this, Brett. If the virtual fence is such a good idea, maybe we ought to just take down the distinctive fence in front of 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue and replace it with a virtual fence.
Glenn, J.D. says if the fence is such a great idea, take down the White House fence and replace it with a virtual fence. What's your thought about this virtual fence, the 28 miles along the border?
That I think we all agree that we need to secure the border. It's very important for our national security, and any country has to control who enters their territory. The question is, we have to do it wisely, carefully, and responsibly. So, of course, it makes sense to try, at least, to utilize the latest technology. Now, certain areas of the border are going to have to be secured with traditional barrier fencing. Now, other parts of the border will be able to utilize the latest technology and minimize the impact of the people living on the border, as well as the environment on the border itself. So the key here is we need to secure the border, but we need to secure it without destroying it.
Yeah. J.D., I mean, you hear that. Why not give this virtual fence a chance, see if it works?
Again, don't misunderstand, Brett. I came out for some form of virtual fencing back in 2003. That's part of the solution. But the problem is, instead of taking the pieces of puzzles and putting them together, it seems we hop from piece to piece to piece instead of a clear, coherent effort to enforce the border. Let me put it in perspective. In 1974, Brett, we were able to build the Dalton Highway up in Alaska from Fairbanks on up through the Arctic Circle to the Prudhoe Bay. Now, it's not a 4-lane interstate, but we got it done in 6 months. We are a nation at war, and the longer we wait and delay and fail to do this, the more problems we have. Don't get me wrong, I welcome some of this, but for me, it seems to be just another jigsaw piece instead of a carefully coordinated, clear, and decisive plan to protect our borders. And sadly, it doesn't appear that this administration or this Congress is intent on getting it done.
Glenn, is there a sense that if this fence goes in, and as it seems like it is, that they'll be able to react to what they see coming across, or who they see coming across the border quickly?
Well, clearly this fence, the virtual fence, nor the barrier fence will be effective at all unless we increase Border Patrol, unless we have an effective system both inside the country and at the border to control the situation. I think it's important to view the fence in general as part of a broader strategy to fix our broken immigration system, along with increased immigration enforcement at the workplace, and along with a guest worker plan that can bring people in legally so people are less tempted to come in illegally. I think it's important to notice that that this border will not be secure unless we take away the incentive to come across the border. We have to allow people to enter legally, and we need an immigration system that reflects our labor needs.
Okay, Glenn Wasserstein, J.D. Hayworth on the phone. Thanks for both chiming in on this virtual fence. I appreciate it.